Welcome back to Track Talk. We'll be doing a game of 1880, just trying to round out the content in the channel by doing a few more of these games before moving on to another title, probably. Um, Daroj will be leading us off in the auction, and he is starting us on the Wusong. And we'll see if the other players want to compete for this. He's starting at 20, which is already um, a fair price for this private. So I don't know if the other players are going to want to press it much higher than this. Looks like Ethenroe is passing, so is Titan, and everyone just gives it to him for 20. The Ethenroe player will be bidding on Kai Ping and bidding 15. Again, a fairly reasonable price for this private. Maybe bid another 5 from someone, but probably not much higher than that. Looks like we see 20, and it goes for 20. The ferry company now, it will be going for 45, and looks like everyone's passing. So not the most exciting auction so far. Mostly people have been getting what they want. Third Monkey, Taiwan, not my favorite private. We'll see how much he wants to bid for it. Looks like he will go $10 over face. Daroj is going to go $10 above that even. And Ethenroe up to 70. So first private with some actual action on it. Titan Rich has enough privates already, not interested in another cheap one. And we'll see if Third Monkey's willing to push it up once again. Looks like he'll pass. It might just go for 70, which it looks like it does. So everybody but Third Monkey now has a private. We have the Rivers now. Probably the first of the privates that I would be at least a little bit excited to own. Not the best private by any means, but the other ones are just kind of really boring. Daroj going up to 95 for it. Looks like Ethenroe's not interested, and he just wins it for 95. So now we have the permit. These last 3 privates are probably the best ones of the group, and we'll see how people want to bid these up. Ethenroe not interested in the permit. Titan Rich bidding 120 for it, and it looks like that's enough to take it. Nice. I think that's a reasonable price for that permit, for that private. A permit could be very powerful for you at the end of the game, allow you to revitalize a company that has otherwise been unable to build its track for a while. Now we'll see the BCR directorship. This is the player that has won this has won the game in both of the prior streams of 1880 we've done. So very curious to see who ends up with this and how they end up doing. He bids 180, goes up to 185, and Titan Rich is now out. He has 3 privates. Third Monkey going up to 200. 200, of course, is kind of the true value of the private in a sense because you can par it for 100, get 2 shares, and you will have recouped your money right off the bat that way. Not to say that the private is only worth 200, could be paid a little bit more than that, but you'll at least get your money back at 200. Ethenroe, he's passing. Third Monkey going up to 210, and it looks like he wins it. Probably going to par this at 100, which he does, and he'll take an ABC permit. This leaves Third Monkey with the Rocket, at least to start it looks like, and he'll take it for 50. Should not be going this cheap, of course. I imagine we'll be seeing some other players bidding this up. Going up to 70 already. Titan is passing, and Daroj continuing. So we'll just have 2 players contesting this. Now up to 100, the value of the train it'll give you, and potentially worth a little bit more than that, but it will just go for 100. So this leaves Third Monkey with the BCR, and he will have first choice of investor as well. We've seen in the past that the BCR oftentimes goes well with the French investor. Could also see potentially a Portuguese investor. Other than those 2, it's going to take you a long time to link up. So if that's your goal, reasonable to pick them, but more commonly, we'll probably see one of those southern investors. Titan Rich has Kai Ping, he has the ferry, and then the permit. The ferry's nice for an HKR or NJR start potentially, so may see him looking at, I believe that's the German investor. Ethenroe, he has Taiwan Western. I don't think the private is really dictating his strategy. And then the Rocket. So with the Rocket, maybe looking at one of the Beijing starts or potentially a company that can run after the private, so the HKR, for instance. And then Daroj, he has the Wusong and then the Chinese rivers. So with the rivers looking in the southwest here, but again, that's not a private that really, I think, dictates your overall strategy. So third monkey, probably French would be my guess. Looks like he's in agreement with that. Titan Rich, we were talking about how he might want to take advantage of the ferry, um, and he will choose the Portuguese, so another southern investor. We'll see how the Rocket player is going to do this. We've seen at least once before where the Rocket player picked a starting company that couldn't run in the first stock round, which really kind of negates the appeal of this private. So hopefully he won't do that, but we may have a little bit of a prediction based on his private investor here. He takes the British, so I don't think that he can run with the British. Yeah, that's not going to help him run his company, but he still has options. And then Daroj, he takes the Russian. So these seem to be some of the most popular investors. I think we've seen this exact combination in at least one game before, maybe even both of the games. Russian, of course, up in the north, isolated from the other investors, but does have that Trans-Siberian run, which we've seen work pretty well for some players. Third monkey, he can buy some of his own BCR shares. And one thing that we didn't comment on is that he actually chose a 20% presidency for the BCR. So he does have priority. We'll be able to buy another share, but this leaves a share for some cross investment down the road. Titan Rich, he is taking the HKR, so he is the ferry company looking to take advantage of that. And he pars at 100 with a 20% presidency. Ethanroe taking the JHU. He's the rocket. So JHU starting out of Beijing has a guaranteed run for itself. Kind of predicted that based on his privates. And he's also taking 100% or $100 par. And he actually takes a 30% presidency. He does not have the permit, so needs to be careful that he has a friend to help him develop track for this company down the road. Probably be taking the AB permit. Be kind of suicidal not to, I think. And he does. Daroj, last 100% or $100 par potentially. Could do that at 30% presidency if he wanted. And he has pretty good options, not limited by his privates or really his investor. I imagine if the Russian, he may be looking at the BZU or the JHA. Needs to be a little bit careful with the JHA that he doesn't get blocked out by the JHU, but probably unlikely that would happen. So he takes the JHA. He only pars it for 70. He's going to spend $210 on this, which will leave him unable, I believe, to float a second presidency, unless well, I guess he would have 150, so technically he could par a second 20% presidency at 70. I don't know if he's looking to do that or just buy more of the JHA shares. So we will see Third Monkey probably buy his last BCR here. He was probably a little bit nervous that someone would snag that share from him, but he's been given the opportunity to just invest in it. And he actually has $70 left over, could look to pick up a JHA share as well. So he does that first. That's reasonable. He notices that the other players, aside from Daroj, can't buy the BCR share, so not really under too much pressure. Titan Rich, is he going to take a JHA share? He's just passing for now. Daroj, he buys. He is parring a second company. Okay, I like that. It's aggressive. He's going to be parring the BZQ, the other northern company, and I guess he's going to be looking to take full advantage of these Trans-Siberian runs. So 2 presidencies for him. He does a 30% presidency and has used all of his cash. So Third Monkey, does he look to buy his last BCR? Instead, he's going to be diversifying and buying the JHU share. Okay, fair enough. And this will leave Titan Rich with priority, most likely. He passed before. I don't know that he's going to buy another share now. And it looks like he passes. So the investors are all now operating. Russian, probably just heading east. And he's, of course, withholding. Portuguese. Portuguese is run by Titan, who has the HKR. So we'll see how early he wants to link this up. He's going to be blocked until green by this track here. So he's not going to be able to link up too early, but we'll see if he wants to start heading east or if he starts directing kind of along the southwest here. So he's going to head probably toward the east just through these dits ultimately. One thing that we did in the first stream that I neglected to do in the second was actually change the zoom so we didn't have to scroll around as much. So let me zoom out a little bit here. It makes it a little bit harder to read, but hopefully the map will be easier to navigate with this. So that's the Portuguese. Now we're on to the French investor. And I somehow skipped over the British investor, but he's just slaying towards the northeast as well, I think. French investor. This is the BCR player, so probably looking to lay friendly track for that. And yes, we'll eventually be heading over there. BCR, first player owned major company. He has 2 track lays, of course. He's going to rush down to the double medium city, and he lays it as a city rather than a dit. Let's see how many 2 trains he buys here. Probably at least 2. Could potentially buy 3 and leave a token in Chongqing to run all 3 trains. Looks like he'll withhold for, or just stay at 2 for now. Did have the money for another one, but just gonna wait. HKR, he's cooperating, or not cooperating, but he has the ferry, so probably heading north. And he buys himself just a single train. JHU, he's getting the 2 train, so he'll be moving forward towards that bonus area of the stock market, taking full advantage of the early strength of that private, and he lays down south. He actually tokens there as well. He's only bought 1 train. Okay. So interesting. I guess he's not interested in heading up north and kind of piggybacking off of the track that the JJ and the BZU are going to be building. Wouldn't be a terrible idea to do that. Could potentially mess up the other player and then also, hop on those Trans-Siberian runs that he's looking to set up. Buys 2 trains. So we'll be running them both with that token at least. BZU now. He is heading south, so probably looking to, synergize with the JHA and lay track that both of those companies can run well. He buys a single 2 train. JHA heading north and also buys a single 2 train. So we have 3 2 trains left, and we're back to the private investors. He's continuing to head east. Somehow I keep skipping the British. So the British are looking to link up with the Shanghai track, it looks like eventually. Or maybe just heading to Taiwan. They're not going to be able to run Taiwan in yellow. We'll need that 3 train to become available first, but we may see that very soon. Portuguese investor is heading northeast still. Was a little bit more expecting him to start heading towards Shanghai, but he's going to be heading directly into the center of the map, at least for now. And then finally, the French investor looks like he's just continuing to meander his way up north towards the BCR. BCR laying over to Chongqing, probably will be tokening here. Actually doesn't need to, only bought the 2 trains, so maybe just sitting on that for now. And he runs for 90, which he pays. And he does not buy a third 2 train. The HKR now can head south and lay this medium city. Probably would want to lay that as a city, not as a dit. Alternatively, can work up towards Qingdao. And if he were to do that, could potentially start heading over to Beijing through there. But it's going to take a while for him to get there if he does. Heading south, telegraphing he wants to get into Taiwan. Going to need a longer train to do that, though. And he's running for just 50, which he pays. He does buy a 2, so could lay Qingdao in the next operating round and then run both of his trains. Otherwise, he'll have to token to take advantage of his second train. JHU lays the dit and will be running 2 trains for 80, which it pays. Buying a third train. So in order to take advantage of that, we'll need to lay and token this city, and we'll be out of tokens if he does that. BZU heading towards Russia, it looks like. A little bit surprised we don't see him laying towards the JHA. Running for just 40, which he pays. Onto the operation of the JHA, who's laying towards the QSR home tile, so not going to be cooperating, at least early, with the BZU. And we'll see if he wants to buy this last 2 train and trigger a stock round, but I don't think he would. When he pays out with the JHA, he's going to not have enough cash. Well, I guess he could buy 1 share, actually, with a payout. Ethanrow could buy a share, and Titan Rich could buy potentially 2 shares. There are 3 $70 shares available. There's also these $100 shares, so probably benefit Titan Rich the most to trigger the stock round here. Third Monkey would be the big loser because he wouldn't have enough money for even 1 share, of course. So I imagine that Daroge probably does not buy the last 2 here. And he does not. We're on to the foreign investors. The train marker is on the JHU, so we may see the stock round happening at least halfway through this next set. Russian investor continuing to head east. The British investor has linked up with Taiwan here, still just running a 2 train. And now we're on to Portugal, who is, looks like just passing track for now. Actually, sorry, he did lay that city. And finally, the French are laying towards the CKR home tile. May see the BCR president, Third Monkey, try and snap that up. BCR's operation, he is continuing to head east and actually cuts off the investor to get into the SCR home tile, running his 2 trains for 90, and he pays that. HKR, he is going to be running 2 trains by heading up north and paying for 100. This is where we'll see the stock round guaranteed to occur. He either buys the 2 or he doesn't. Either way, the stock round is happening. Running 3 trains, we'll need to token in Jinan to take advantage of this, which he does. So he's all out of tokens, but he has secured himself a run from Beijing, probably down to Shanghai for the rest of the game. You know, even a token on Qingdao, it's not going to be the end of the world. He could bypass it along the ferry line. Paying out for 170, highest revenue in this early phase of the game, and we will enter the next stock round. This will lead Titan Rich with the first action and has some shares available to him. JHU, no shares available, does have the highest revenue, at least for now. BCR, always a good company, may look to snap that up even though it's a more expensive share. HKR, actually running for slightly more than the BCR, at least for now, but no guarantees that that continues with the BCR's ability to double A track. BZU and JHA, probably not the most appealing shares right now. So he takes the HKR, just looking for that extra revenue. Ethanrow, also with over $100. He buys a BZU, actually. Daroge, 1 share for him, and he will buy his JHA to protect that. Third Monkey, last in priority, has more limited choices. It's only going to be picking up a BZU at the best, which he's happy to do. And we're back to Titan Rich, who has money for shares, but is limited by their availability, so has to pick the BCR, the HKR. Could just buy his own HKR here, which it looks like he does. And Ethanrow, unfortunately, not able to pick up a second share just because of cash. So this should leave Ethanrow with priority into the next stock round. Returning to operations, BZU, he is laying Chengchun, and still only able to run one train. May need to pick up a 3 train now so he can start taking full advantage of the track he has access to. Pays for 40, and he buys a 2+2. Sorry, I said 3, but the 2+2 is available first. JHA laying the 00 City, and let's see where he is in priority. He's going second in priority, so I imagine he probably is going to hope to get this QSR company so he's not blocked by it, but no guarantee since he's not operating first. The player operating first is Ethenroe, who's operating the JHU. Not unreasonable for him to take the QSR either, has track laid for it, and it's in pretty close proximity to his other company. So he lays that track, and will he also buy a 2+2? He's passing for now. Pretty slow on the trains in this game so far. Russian investor, he's dipping down to hit the DIT rather than just running straight east across. Has a 2+2, not enough for him to do the Trans-Siberian, even if he were to go straight across. British investor with a 2+2, he can now hit Taiwan. So we'll see a jump in his revenue up to 90. The Portuguese, also happy to have access to a 2+2, can hit all of his track now. And we will see the French now probably laying the CKR home. It looks like it. So they will be looking to cooperate on this 00, but again, that won't open up until green. BCR, he lays the SCR home tile. So very curious to see how these 3 00 tiles end up working out. They should be pretty contested in the very near future. BCR just running his 2 trains still, falling a little bit behind in revenue because he didn't pick up a third 2 train, but he can pick up 2+2 now. And it looks like he does. So we have 3 of those left, and I think most of these companies that don't have one should be looking to pick one up. Laying through Qingdao and already setting up to bypass the JHU tokens. He actually tokens there, so has 1 token left. And why is he dropping that token now? Not entirely sure. I don't think it helps his revenue. He has the ferry, so I believe he has the ferry, right? He does. So he doesn't really need to token there to improve his run. And he also buys a 2+2. So maybe just hoping that he can take advantage of that token in the next operating round. Could have saved it for now, didn't have to lay it when he did. JHU running 3 trains, and he's going to be completing this loop, it looks like. That will be kind of unfortunate for HKR, who's going to have to pay the train cost for it. But I imagine he does do this because he'll now have a 2+2 where he can hit both these DITs and then the JHU home. JHU having already exhausted all of his tokens, the HKR player is not worried about a token on Qingdao. BZU running 2 trains now, and he's not able to take full advantage of that plus train just yet, but maybe if he links up in this double dip, he will. Running for 80, so basically doubling his revenue. JHA, still just 1 train, and has no track to lay until green. Does he buy a 2+2 as well? He's not. So the train marker will stay on HKR. May see a quick stock round here. I don't know that the BCR is looking for another train or the HKR, so probably we'll see the rest of these 2+2s export. And that will mean that the BCR and the HKR get to operate an extra time compared to the other companies. Should leave Titan Rich and Third Monkey in a little bit of a better situation relative to the other players for buying stocks. The Russians, does he want to link up with the BZU? I actually don't remember which of the companies Darosh voted first. I think it was the JJ, so this link up would not close his investor, I don't believe. I actually don't know how you see that. Oh, it's probably down here. Yes, so the investor is linked up with the JHA, so he can lay this track without prematurely closing his investor. But he's not going to do that just yet. The British, I think they don't have any track delay. They do not, so still just running to Taiwan. Portuguese, also with no track delay. And I think the French are also blocked now that we are not yet in green. BCR running 3 trains finally, no track for him delay. And it looks like he's running for 210. HKR also 3 tracks or 3 trains, probably laying this loop here so he can take advantage of his 2+2. Actually, instead linking up with Taiwan. Taiwan counts as a DIT, so he can still use his 2+2 down here. And I guess that's a little bit extra cash because it's a 30 versus $20 city. So maybe the right move there. He's running 240, and if he doesn't buy a train here, I think we enter the stock round. We do. So the 2+2s are gone, and everyone has a fair amount of money. Titan Rich has the most, but is going last in priority. So unless new companies are parred, he may struggle to buy stocks. Ethanrow, he has access to a BCR share, which is actually the only share available. So this is probably bad for the other players. They're not going to be able to buy any stocks unless they want to float another company. But the only one with enough capital to really realistically look at doing that, I think, would be Titan Rich. BCR now sold out. Everybody passing in Titan Rich. He is actually floating another company, the NJR. This will allow the other players to buy shares in this company unless he pars it at a 40% presidency, which he can't afford to do. He can take the 30% presidency. NJR and HKR have nice synergy. They are right next to each other on the map. He's built some pretty nice track for it and is not worried about competition for the token at Qingdao, so reasonable to do it. But he may not be able to buy as many shares as he's hoping. I guess if he takes a 30% presidency, he's out of cash, so probably reasonable to do that. He is going to give some shares to the other players with this, though. 30% presidency, and he takes a BC permanent. So his HKR and NJR are going to be able to build track for each other. Ethanrow, no cash. Daroge probably picking up an NJR share, just passing. And Third Monkey, he will actually pick up the NJR. So Daroge doesn't want to buy a company that may not pay before the next stock round. It's going to be operating right after the stock round opens, basically, or the operating round opens, basically, but it falls back, and then we may see a stock round triggered before it's able to operate again. And this will leave, I believe, Titan Rich with priority. JHU back to operating. And he actually ends up linking, creating this link. He's not able to run that track very efficiently. So I'm a little bit surprised that he was willing to pay that drain cost to do it. Running for 170 and paying. First operation of this newly floated company. Imagine he's looking to take advantage of the track laid for him by the HKR already. And he buys into green, so he's going to be able to take advantage of that. Also, all the companies now have the second half of their capital. He actually didn't lay himself track, which is a little bit surprising. He's probably going to be falling back again. I suppose with double lays or the HKR laying track for him, not necessarily. But I don't fully understand why he didn't lay track there. If we look at the tile roster, there wasn't a sharp city available to him, but there was curved and straight. Did he have his heart set on a sharp city for some reason? He could lay to Shanghai and then down into Taiwan with that. But with green available, you can always upgrade anyways. I don't know. That's interesting. BZU running 2 trains, sorry. Does link up with Vladivostok and heading over to Russia. So he's going to need a pretty long train, probably a 4+ train to actually do the east-west run for himself with this existing track. He's running for 130 and pays out. JHA, just one train still, kind of slow rolling it. He has access to green, upgrades his city right outside of Beijing. And does he buy a 3? Yes. He missed out on the 2+2s, so it would have been kind of surprising had he not bought a 3. This he actually buys 2 of them. So I think that we will probably be seeing the NJR operate before there's another stock round, which I'm sure Titan Rich is really hoping occurs. Russia, he's upgrading Quihar or Uyghur and running for 80. British, now access to green, could upgrade this city for a little extra money. Looks like that's what he's doing, and he's looking to get over to the Macau tile eventually. Portugal could upgrade this dit here, or not dit, but this track here. Alternatively, could just upgrade one of these cities for a little extra revenue. So it looks like he's heading over to the NJR potentially. That is his 2 companies over there, the HKR and NJR. So maybe just hoping to link up the HKR with his investor fairly early. French investor, he lays this 00 city that we've been talking about, connects it so the CKR can cooperate with the BCR very easily. And this is Third Monkey, who is going last in priority, so no guarantee that he gets that CKR. May see one of those other players snipe that from him. He did manage to link up his investor, and he takes all the cash into the BCR. He'll be getting a little bit extra cash from that extra share now, and he has 3 trains, should be running quite well. He is getting that other 00 city, so he's getting all these important track lays to himself. And yeah, I mean, he's created a nice little kind of racing circuit loop here for both of these companies if they choose to take advantage of it. He is now running for 250. Would have thought his run was a little bit better than that now that we have access to green cities and he's running 2 trains. But I guess he takes what he can get, pays that out, and he buys a 3 train. So I think there's one of them left, yes. And the question is whether or not the NJR is going to be able to operate. HKR, I don't know. Well, so he's probably motivated not to buy the 3 train because he doesn't want to trigger a stock round. JHU, does he want a 3 train? He has plenty of cash and he doesn't have a 2+2, so he probably will be buying that, which is, again, a little bit unfortunate for the newly floated company. Well, he will get at least one operation here, and he upgrades, giving the NJR a run into Shanghai. He's going to run for 250, and he pays that out. JHU, he is upgrading near Beijing, so with a 3 train can kind of double tap Beijing. Not the highest revenue center right now, but of course will be upgraded soon. And he's paying for 240, probably buying the 3 and triggering a stock round. He actually passes. Let's think about that for a second. So Ethanrow, he has $226. He's, right up there with the other players. Third Monkey has a little bit less. He would be second in priority, so could buy all these new shares that have become available now that we're in green, or have his pick of the litter, so to speak. And this would hurt Titan Rich twofold. One, he'd have less cash, so he wouldn't be able to buy as many shares, and the NJR wouldn't have operated. So plus he has just 2 trains now. May miss out entirely on the 3s. Yeah, I don't know. Those 3+3s are quite a bit more expensive than the 3 train. NJR, he has a run for himself and is starting to head up north, potentially towards Beijing. This track is useful for both him and the HKR, of course. Running a 3 train and paying for 80. BZU, he is upgrading a green city and running for 140, which he pays. JHA, he is upgrading Beijing, actually, only able to run 1 train into this. Actually, yes, so he can double tap Beijing, BC as a 3 train, so should have a pretty good run now. and he is actually tokening Tianjin. I don't think that really hurts the HKR and Ninja. They should be able to get access into Beijing elsewhere. So just going to secure his run, but not really blocking anyone, I wouldn't say. Running for 300, I think that's the highest revenue we've seen. This is, I believe, the Rocket Company, so it makes sense that he's running pretty well. He is actually, sorry, it looks like the JHU is the Rocket Company, not the JHA, but still running pretty well. We are into the next operating set, and there's 1-3 train available. The train marker is sitting at the BCR, so regardless of what the BCR does, we will be triggering a stock round on its operation. Good news for Third Monkey. Russian investor, he has a link up east-west now, but I think we still cannot see him run that. He's running a 3 train, so not going to be quite enough. And developing a healthy treasury for himself. British investor could upgrade Macau here. Instead, getting some bypass from Taiwan, looking to get into Shanghai down the road. And the British investor is linked up with the JHU. It's going to take him a while to do this link up. Multiple cities have to be upgraded for this to occur. Qingdao, Shanghai, and then this DIT. Portugal may just continue to head over to the NJR. Instead, upgrading a city, and he should be able to get into Taiwan himself now, I think. He can, but it doesn't really help his revenue at all. Probably still running basically the same route. BCR running 4 trains now, so he should have a pretty monstrous run. Does he want to create this racing track that we've talked about? It really does look like a oval almost. And instead, looks like he's going to head into the offboards. He is the French investor, so his investor's already done. Now has a bunch of double dits, and let's see if he's able to improve on his run. 250 again was a little bit underwhelming, but now running 4 trains. So he's going to be running for 370 now, much better. And he actually snags the token on the Macau tile. That's interesting. It doesn't even control access to Hong Kong. Okay. We'll see if he ends up with the CKR or not. I'm sure he's probably hoping to do that now that it has all this track built for it. Could also look at the, I think this is the QSR start, or the SCR start. That company also would be reasonable synergy with the BCR, but I don't fully understand this BCR token. We're into the stock round. Titan Rich with priority, and Third Monkey by far with the most cash. The Wusong could potentially be going to Daroge, who has the second most cash, so with another $70, potentially an extra share for him, or a better float. Looks like he picks that. I think we've seen a $70 buy-in in all the games we've commented. Seems like most players are happy to kind of split the baby and pick, the intermediate payout rather than waiting for that higher payout down the road. Titan Rich, 2 presidencies for him, can buy his kind of pick of the litter in terms of shares. The BCR has a pretty monstrous run, but the JHA is also attractive. The BCR, of course, has 2 trains that's going to be rusting earlier than the JHA trains, so maybe that company would be a little bit more attractive if you're worried about a quick rusting event. Although the BCR's higher revenue is pretty attractive, and it's much further ahead on the stock market. Not much further, but the JHA's got this ledge to overcome as well. So maybe the BCR has enough to speak for it that he picks that. Instead, going to buy his NJR to get it fully capitalized. I think there are probably better shares to buy, but I guess you're not too worried about them selling out with 5 shares being available. Ethanrow, buying an HKR. Pretty good revenue there. Daroge has a ton of cash. May just see him want to float a company here. And if he was looking at floating a company with the JHA and the BZU, I think he wants the QSR up here, which may be exactly what we'll see. So instead taking the JGG, another Beijing company, I don't know where he's going to head with that. We'll have to see how that plays out. He has two companies already. They both have AB. Actually, they have an ABC and an AB permit. So unfortunately, based on the map positioning, though, it's going to be hard for them to help the JGG president lay track. I think you still want to pick a high density cert, but you're going to need to at least a B cert. So probably a BC. He takes a 40% presidency. Ooh, so he's going to have very limited opportunities to build track for the JGG. And he picks a C permit. Okay. When does the C permit activate? That's on the 4+4s. So he's got a while to go. That might be a mistake. He's going to be sitting on that $400 of revenue with potentially no track for a while. Yeah. That could be a game-losing decision there. I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to be too critical. We'll see if he's able to pull something out. He does secure the last $100 par here. Third Monkey also in a position to float a company if he wants, and we'll see if he picks the SCR or the CKR, which would be kind of the companies I would be looking at. Maybe he wants to favor the SCR over the CKR just because the SCR is guaranteed to take one of these holes, whereas the CKR you could immediately upgrade to bypass. These will open up later in the game, but at least for green, it would be helpful to have that. On the other hand, if he's looking to run through this with the BCR, the SCR token could potentially block him. So that would be a motivating factor to take the CKR, which you could just leave its home tile in King, upgrade through it, and then upgrade these tracks so the CKR has its own runs too. Yeah, that might make more sense actually. He does take the CKR. He's parring it for as high as he can. Unfortunately for him, Daroge was able to snag that last $100 par. But as previously stated, that's a lot of money that Daroge just locked up without much opportunity to do anything with. He buys a 30% presidency. CKR has a BC permit, so we'll be building track immediately. And we'll see if they are going to be able to actually float. Daroge, yeah, they will float. Third Monkey buying the CKR as noted. Titan Rich is buying an HKR, his own company, so almost max invested there. Ethanrow, one more share for him, and he buys a JHU. JHU, I think that's the rocket company, so we'll have good revenue, but a little bit worried about this company only having 2 trains. It's going to eventually need to secure himself a better train or just fall back, which would be pretty disastrous for the rocket, unless I guess it were to occur during communism, but still having no revenue for a operation is never good. Daroge, he's kind of put himself in a little bit of a rough spot here. Third Monkey, he buys his NJR. Sorry, not his NJR, but he buys a share in it. And he's the only one left with money, so he could potentially buy 2 shares, I believe. No, he can't. There were some $70 pars, but they've appreciated enough now that they're too expensive for him to buy 2 shares. And I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't seen anybody looking at this BCR or the JHA. I mean, they're just running for a lot more than the other companies, at least right now. So he will finally buy a BCR. This will leave Titan Rich with priority, and we're into the next operation. HKR, 3 trains for him, and Titan Rich has still just the 2 companies. He's not one of the players that parred a new one. So maybe just upgrading cities along his run for incremental benefit. He upgrades the JHU. This opens up a token spot and may allow him to run through there into Beijing. So he's running for 250, which he pays now into a higher bonus area of the stock market as well. Doesn't really need another train, I don't think, but does buy it. So it's nice for him. He is able to discard one of these 2 trains out of the BCR, but it also hurts him because he also has to discard a 2 train. JHU is a company with just 3 2 trains. He is looks like to link up down into Nanjing and Shanghai. Unclear to me why he's doing this. Could be tokened out and he's just laying track for other players' companies. Running 3 2 trains for 280. JJG, as noted, can buy trains, but not going to be able to run them for some time. So maybe just buying trains for his other presidencies, but kind of losing a lot of stock appreciation, losing a lot of investment opportunity with this strategy. CKR, first operation for him. Imagine we'll just see him starting to upgrade some of these cities to improve the run of both these companies. And he can buy just a single 3+3. There are some dits that he can take advantage of, but he's actually only going to be able to hit one of them with the existing track. Really needs to get a token over on this side of the map to start hitting a lot of these dits, I think. Buying a 2 train over from the BCR and then buys a 3+3. So we'll have pretty good revenue, but kind of splitting the difference with the BCR in a sense. NJR, he is getting access into Beijing, and with a 3 train, not going to be quite good enough to reach there, but can buy a plus train, which would get him there. And we'll see if he does. He does, so there's one left, and I think that another player is going to be eager to buy this up. So do either of Daroge's company need this? I guess not really. Maybe the BZU. If they buy that, that will trigger a stock round. And Daroge, he's not in a really good position for a stock round after the BZU operation, so maybe wants to hold off just for that reason. BZU, upgrading his home, and running for 180, does not buy the train. Train marker should be on the NJR, I believe. So could see this drag out a little bit. JHA, I don't think he wants a 3+ in this company. He is laying track around for the JGG, but again, it's going to not run again on its next operating round unless someone takes mercy on it. I don't know why another player would want to lay that track. Could even potentially try to block it. Actually, I don't recall the rule exactly, but you may not be able to lay track here that does not run into Beijing. You may not be able to block the start of this company. But regardless, definitely shouldn't be laying track for it, I don't think. So running for 300, which he pays, and we are back to the investors. The Russian, still not an easy way for him to link up with the JHU, or maybe the JHA, I forget which one it is. Probably the JHA. And we'll need at least one more track upgrade before that occurs. The British continuing to just lay green tiles down south. And he is looking to upgrade with the JHU, but not able to get there just yet. The JHU operation may be focused on upgrading Nanjing and linking those up so he can get that extra capital. Oh, sorry, I misspoke. So that upgrade is enough to link them up. I think he's able to pass through the NJR token for the purpose of his link up. So another private investor has closed. The Portuguese, TitanRich. TitanRich is running the NJR and HKR, so they are also linked up at this point. And they are putting their money into the treasury. I believe both of these players did. Yes. A little bit less cash in the Portugal than the British. So just the Russian investor left. BCR now running just two trains. Will be running for less than it was before, but by increasing his track and upgrading into green, maybe not, as bad of a drop as it could be. Upgrading trunking and running for 310. So just a $60 drop, even though he's running 2 less trains. Good for him. And I don't think he wants a 3+3 for the train itself, but could be looking to trigger a stock round. Probably not. I think he just waits here. So we may see the players make it down to the NJR. HKR, I don't think he wants a 3. JHU, he probably is in a position where he needs to think about buying this 3+3. So could potentially see the stock round triggered there. HKR, 4 trains still. Actually, sorry, 3 trains still. It's hard to quickly parse those plus trains. And he upgrades Nanjing. Can he hit Beijing at this point? No, not without a token. So may want to token Nanjing here. That'd be his last token, but probably an important one for him to lay. He immediately snaps that up, and with that, should be able to get into Beijing for some pretty nice runs. So running for 400, he is by far the majority investor in this company. JHU still just 3 2 trains, and we predicted that he may be looking at this plus train. Running for 330, and actually does not buy it. So are we going to see it go all the way back down to the NJR? Potentially. JGG does have track for himself. Who laid that track? I'm very surprised to see this. Sorry, I shouldn't just back through everything. Let's just see here who laid this. So we'll look at Daroge's other companies, which are the BZU and the JHA. Was the Beats? I don't think he was able to lay that. So one of the other players must have laid it for him. Why would they do that? Was it the NJR? Not the NJR. Not the HKR. Was it his investor? Is an investor able to get all the way up there? Huh. So this is tile G7. Who laid G7? Sorry, I'm just very curious. It'll take a second to figure out, but I am very surprised to see this happening. A7. So the JHA was able to run around and do that. I must have missed that he had laid 2 tiles there. I think I commented on the H8, but neglected to realize he'd also laid G7. So the JGG is working out better for Daroge than I had anticipated. He was able to kind of sneak around here and get the track lay. So good for him. I was worried about that decision, but it seems like it won't be, immediately game losing for him. He secures the token in Jinan and has blocked the NJR just temporarily from getting runs into Beijing, but this is still bypassable in the long term. Running for 150, and he pays that out. Nice for him that the stock round has been triggered. He was able to get one run out of the JGG before it was. CKR, last company to operate before the stock round probably. Actually, the NJR will be. And he is just continuing to lay track down south. Running 2 trains. And he actually tokened in Chongqing, so he's just doubling token here. This will give him access to these dits that we were talking about before for his plus train. Running for 240. NJR, last company to operate here. And he is upgrading G11. Is that this track here? I think so. So basically he's given himself a run into Beijing despite the tokens on Jinan. And he tokens Qingdao, so his runs into Shanghai with both these companies are totally secure. Has set himself up a nice little Eastern cartel, so to speak, monopolizing the ferry. NJR running for 250, which he pays, enters the bonus area of the stock market, which is going to become relevant very soon once these 4 trains come out. And we are into the stock round. So probably the last stock round, or I guess definitely the last stock round before the market closes, and we'll see how everybody wants to invest their cash. This is where these bonus payments become so important. JHU, obviously a high value investment. Not going to be running into green, I don't believe, before we see the market close. Too many companies before it, but we'll have the highest bonus. And I don't think we'll see the HKR or BCR able to move over one more, but it's potentially possible, especially for the BCR. Um, so maybe the BCR has a little bit higher value than is exposed right now. Neither of these trains are going to rust on the 4 either. So JHU is the only company that is at risk of that. And the JHU is not operating for a while. I think it's, are we going to see it fall back? Uh, I guess if it falls back during communism, it's not the end of the world, but um, still, he won't have revenue for one operating round. This was avoidable. I'm surprised to see him in this position. Regardless, Titan Rich starting us off in the stock round has the most cash and priority, and he's buying his HKR up to 70% of that company. Ethanrow, he is buying the HKR as well. Daroge, so HKR has sold out, and it is already at the ceiling, so not going to be floating up at least. Third Monkey, he is buying the JHU. JHU again, potentially not having any revenue for one of these operating rounds. Does have the bonus, but only gets the bonus if it runs. So I don't think I would be investing in that company unless you can assure that it's not going to be falling back. But there's a large number of companies that are going to be running before it that have an interest in the 4 train. So, all right. I'd much prefer to invest in the BCR over the JHU or even the HKR, but that's sold out now. Titan Rich, he is buying another JHU. What am I missing? Maybe I'm missing something and that the players are seeing that this company has better potential. Otherwise, I'm a little bit confused. Ethanrow, he is buying the JHU as well. Daroge doesn't have money for the JHU, will buy JHA instead. With 2-3 trains, is going to continue to have good revenue. The JHU is now sold out. Titan Rich buying the JHA. A little bit surprised people aren't looking at this BCR. BCR has good revenue, good stock bonus. Train is not going to be rusting immediately, so has pretty secure runs and that kind of thing. NJR now going. Daroge out of cash. Third Monkey, I don't think there's any shares that he can buy either. So he sells out of the NJR. And is he looking to float? Probably not with that little amount of cash. May just look to buy higher paying shares. Buying the CKR. Does that put NJR behind a ledge? It does. So that's bad news for Titan Rich. Going to be harder to advance as a result of this. Titan Rich buying his NJR. That's the one that was just sold. And NJR continues to be bought. Daroge passing. Third Monkey with that sale has money for another share. He's actually getting at the rest of its treasury. Titan Rich buying the CKR as well now that it has now that he's not giving its treasury for free. And I think everybody else has to pass here, so this should leave Ethanrow with priority. Third Monkey being a little bit disruptive, selling out of the BZU. BZU, not the best revenue. That 2 train is not long for this world, so reasonable to sell that. And he's going to put his money instead in, actually selling out of more companies, okay, and buying his CKR. So he's just really looking to capitalize on the track he's laid for both of these companies. This 2 train will be rusting, so CKR is not as attractive as it could otherwise be. Third Monkey, enough money for at least one more share. Buying the CKR again. Is he just going to continue to buy the CKR? Looks like it. If he floats this company up, it really doesn't have much impact. Not going to be getting over a hump or getting into a bonus phase of the market. And this will leave Titan Rich with priority. Okay, so let's see when this 4 train comes out. NJR is not able to do it. Can the BZU or the JHA? BZU can, JHA cannot. At least not without withholding, which maybe they want to do. Certainly someone needs to do this before Ethanrow operates, at least that's my thinking. Daroge has no investment in the JHU, and the other players do, so he's probably pretty motivated to make that happen. He would rust 2 of his trains potentially, but he's going to get one of those to run before it rusts, so not the end of the world. NJR, and we're into the BZU. BZU, with a 4 train, he, I think, is just short of hitting the east-west, so not going to quite make it there, but is setting himself up pretty well for getting that Trans-Siberian run. Heading down to Beijing, and does secure himself a run into Beijing, which he's now taking advantage of, and running for 220. He's still able to move to the right, but probably the last company to do it, and he does buy that 4. So bad news for the JHU and all of the people that invested in it. JHA, he is not laying really anything too exciting, running 2-3 trains, altering the runs a little bit, now running for 250 because he lost his 2 train. And Russian investor, Russia is linked up with the JHA, I believe, at this point. So this will be the last operation of the investor. And he transfers $600 to the JHA, which is now pretty healthy treasury. So he can look at permanent trains in the near future. BCR running a 2+ and a 3. He is laying 07. Where's 07? I wish it was easier for me to tell this. Let's turn on the hex coordinates. 07. So he's just improving his routes, maybe looking to complete the link up down south of his loop. It actually doesn't lay it so that that's possible, but will eventually occur, I'm sure. Running for 320, and he actually withholds, so he also has a healthy treasury, can pick up a 4 train, and then just start paying really monstrous revenues. Looks like he will. HKR owns 70% of his own company, running 2 trains with it. Upgrading Shanghai, and running for 390, which he withholds, also probably picking up a 4. JHU falling back. I mean, not literally falling back because the market's closed, but no money for this company. Surprised again that this is happening. And buys for 300 a 4. Does he want to buy both of these 4s and just immediately trigger a stock round? That would probably be a terrible idea. So I don't think we'll see that. No, he does. Okay. I think that's bad, right? You're giving Daroge the basically sole opportunity to invest cash compared to everybody else. He is in last place right now, so I guess that's just evening the game out a little bit. But hard to make most. I'll take that back. I don't know that he's actually in last place. He technically has less net worth, but just based on where we are in operating order, could be hard to really say that that's a fair marker. Regardless, stock round triggered, and people have the opportunities to change their portfolios a little bit. Titan Rich is just passing, Ethanrow passing, Daroge probably buying shares, buying a CKR, single 3 train here. I don't know about that. People are very leery of this BCR. I wonder why they're not buying that. And Titan Rich now selling out of the CKR, not changing the, position of the stock marker, of course. Buying a BZU with the 4 train. Is that getting a Trans-Siberian run? I don't think so. I think we already decided that that wasn't good enough. No, and he's going to have to make some big changes to his track before he's really able to do that. Because all these dits are going to be kind of eating up his 4 train. Probably needs a 4+4 before we're going to really see him have an opportunity to get over there. 4+4s are available. BZU only $20 in the treasury though, so even with withholds is going to struggle to afford that 4+4. Daroge buying his probably last share, He's buying his own JGG, gets the rest of the treasury for that company. I was critical of that decision, but he was able to lay the track for it, so it's working out just fine. And we'll see if Third Monkey just leaves with priority. Looks like it. So Daroge, I think, getting a little bit of a gift there from the other players in terms of being able to invest his cash and catch up to them in terms of their stocks. JHU probably just ending his operation. And the JGG is now up with a 3+3, tokened out of Everywhere South, and probably doesn't have too much exciting track delay as a result. Upgrading Beijing, well, I guess that's exciting enough. Can hit Beijing just once. Everybody can run through Beijing now. And he's running for 180. Still one token left. I wonder if he lays it up north and just secures himself a Trans-Siberian run for the late game. Also withholding, could look towards the 4+4, which is going to rust those 2+2s. That would be, actually the 2+2 is already rusted, sorry. The JHU, I didn't realize that he actually bought a third train with that company. So he's going to be running very well. But if we see a speedy end to the market closure, which we very well might, he's not going to be able to withhold to get company cash for a permanent train. And he's currently train locked with no permanent trains, so that might be a problem for him long term. I neglected to realize that he had actually bought a 4+4. JGG, he is buying that 4+4, and again, we are just kind of racing through this market closure as a result of this. CKR, he is upgrading way down here, this 00 city, now that we're into brown, and he's running for just 190, but can pick himself up a 4+4 as well if he wants, which he does. So one of those left, or two of those left, okay. We may just see these last remaining companies rush right into the next stock round. NJR, upgrading Shanghai, running two of his trains for 380. Does he withhold here? He does, so another 4+4 leaving the market, it looks like. Actually, he doesn't buy a train, so that will slow things down a little bit. BZU, only $20, and not laying any track with an AB permit. I guess he's done with track for the game. Withholds 200, and shuffling a train out of the JGG. JJ does have money for a 4+4, probably. I mean, he has good track, and with a 4+4, could potentially run Trans-Siberian. No, BC doesn't have any tokens positioned to do that. Running for 290, he pays that and buys a 4 train. So just shuffling money around. BZU still doesn't have very much cash, but has secured itself a 4+4, which will give him the Trans-Siberian. His other two companies are pretty flush. BCR could look to a 4+4, but would train lock himself. I guess that 6 train will be coming out soon enough, so not really train locking himself for very long. But if he does buy this 4+4, he's going to have to withhold so that he can take advantage of this market closure one more time. Upgrading Chengdu, his home, running for 350, which he withholds. I think we do see him buy the 4+4 here. He does not. Okay. Where's the train marker? It's over on the CKR. So I guess the other player is maybe just happy to let the 4+4s evaporate. He upgraded L14, which is this nameless city here, just improving his run a little bit. He withholds for 470, very healthy treasury. JHU running 3 trains now. I guess it's good for him that he's able to get one run before the market closes, but he'll probably have to withhold again, I think. Pretty monstrous run of 670, withholds it, and I think the market, okay, the CKR is going to trigger the stock round then. JGG, he could really extend things potentially by buying a train here if he wanted. Would that benefit him? He's running a bunch of trains, I think. Yeah, the JHA. So if he could get another run out of that JHA, that might be good for him. Running just a single 3 train, 3+3 for 190 with holds, and he does extend the OR. Okay, so that's a strategic decision. Whether or not it's good or not remains to be seen, but he is going to get some more runs with his companies as a result, I think. He had the most cash, so if he had triggered a stock round or had the CKR trigger a stock round, which I think it was going to have to, he potentially could get a leg up on the other players. But maybe this extra run of the JHA is worthwhile. Regardless, slowing the game down for everyone with this. Not in a bad way, just extending their runs basically. CKR laying the Chengdu tile again, it looks like. Oh, M13, not M3. M13 is this track here. So getting a run into Shanghai, which is going to be good for him. 4+4, he can reach that, but there's no dits along that route, so probably not wanting to use that train there. And he's running for 370. I think he has to withhold again. He does. And we will see probably nobody else buying this 4+4, so I think all the companies are going to run one more time. NJR, upgrading Nanjing, and paying for 440 or 400 and actually withholding it. So everyone's going to be in a good position for this upcoming permanent train push. BZU, first run of the Trans-Siberian, I believe, and running for 310, withholding. JHA, 3 trains for him, upgrading outside of Beijing, and he's going to run for 470. The train marker is at the JGG, so I think we'll be seeing a stock round at that operation. Don't imagine anybody is looking to buy that last 4x4, and actually that would trigger it earlier anyways. BCR. He's running a single train here, just for 180, and he's going to get one last withhold for him. HKR also with a single train, very healthy treasury though. He is running for 190 and pays it out. Sorry, 290, not 190, as a result of the bonus from the stock market. JHU running 3 trains, 720, very good for him. And he actually withholds it. Wow. So I think he's withheld 3 times now, or he fell back and then withheld twice. Very healthy treasury, so he's going to be able to secure himself 2 permanent trains without much difficulty once these 4 trains rust. It's going to be a while before that happens, so he has his trains all set for him. JGG running just 2 trains. Does have a token if he wants to take advantage of this Trans-Siberian run, which it looks like he's going to be doing. So pretty good revenue for him, 450, and we should be going into the next stock round now. This means the 6 trains are available. So whoever is after the JGG, looks like it's the CKR, should be, well, I guess he's not going to be able to move forward actually, because he's not going to be able to trigger the stock market reopening. We'll see who's able to do that. Daroge, pretty far ahead in terms of cash, also has second most shares, so good position for him. He's got the JJ, JGG, and BZU. 2 of these companies are taking advantage of the Trans-Siberian. And I think his liability here is probably just the BZU's treasury, not the most healthy. But his other 2 companies are doing okay. Moving kind of up priority from there, Ethanroe has the JHU, which is the rocket. He's got a lot of cash in this company and is going to have very high revenue for the foreseeable future. So he was able to overcome the rust of his 2 trains pretty well, but had to withhold a ton to do it. Could be even further ahead, I think, if he had had even 1 train in this company. and that's his sole presidency, it looks like. Titan Rich running along the East Coast with the HKR and the NJR. He has, I think, pretty healthy companies, good treasuries in both of those, and running 3 trains out of the NJR is going to have pretty good revenue. Third Monkey is our BCR player, also with the CKR. His BCR has a healthy treasury. He's going to be buying probably these first permanent trains, and shouldn't have any struggle to do that. Okay. Does he want to invest in his own BCR then? He's going to buy an NJR. NJR running 3 trains will have good revenue. Titan Rich, he is buying the NJR as well. One more share available there. Ethanrow may want to snap that up. Looks like he does. Daroge, he is floating a new company. I think this is the last Beijing company, right? It is the JLR. So he is the Trans-Siberian player, and he is starting yet another company that potentially is able to take advantage of this northern track for him. It's going to have to bypass Harbin, obviously, to do it, but shouldn't be too hard to do it. Just can upgrade this DIT, basically. He is going to par that for 90, max par available. There are, looks like 2 more 90 pars available. And I think probably he looks at a 40% presidency here. JHA, JGG, and the BZU all are working together. The JGG has a C permit at least, and the other 2, I think they just have BA permits, right? Do they have C strains? JHA does. BZU does not. So he could potentially just take a D permit with a 40% presidency and just prioritize his stock density. Looks like that's what he's going to do. In the JLR does end up with a D permit. That eats up a lot of his cash, so potentially could even not lose priority at this point because he was able to take basically 4 stock actions as one. Titan Rich buying a CKR. That company will be floating up now. Daroge, last action for him probably, buying the JLR, so he now has the other half of his treasury. Titan Rich, he is buying the BCR. Again, I'm a little bit surprised that this company hasn't been performing as well as we have seen in the past, and I think everybody else will be passing here, so probably Ethanrow leaves with priority. Back to the operating round. JGG could potentially buy a 6 here, but if he does, he allows the CKR to just move forward on its first operation, and Third Monkey is in a pretty good position in this game. I don't know that he wants to hand him a gift like that. It would rust the 3, so maybe not a full gift. There is a downside there. We'll see what he decides. He does. So kind of a mixed bag for the CKR, but probably moving forward is more important than that 3 train. Upgrading Chongqing and tokening in Shanghai, so maybe not the best news for the NJR, whose route has just been cut. And the NJR, I think, is the company everybody was eager to buy in this last stock round. So not great for him. Running for 460, which he pays. JLR, first operation here. Nice for him that he's able to operate so soon after the stock round ends. He's not running, obviously, and buys the 6. So 3 of those left. He also buys a refurbished 2 train. So I guess kind of telegraphing that he's going to be tokening probably somewhere up north and running the east-west run with his 6 and then just tapping into Beijing with the refurbished 2. NJR running 3 pluses and has to change his route up, but is still running for a little bit more at 460 than he was in the past. He pays that out and then buys a 6. One of those is left, I believe. 2 of them are left. BZU, just running that Trans-Siberian route again. And he withholds 320, so he can secure himself a 6. These are really flying off the rack, so to speak. JHA also with money for a 6. And he is upgrading Tianjin. Where is that? F10. Okay, just outside of Beijing. Running for pretty low revenue. May want to secure himself a 6 just because he's going to have trouble exporting a different train. I guess you could wait for a 6E, but is that really a priority? So we're into the next stock round very quick. And Third Monkey and Titan Rich have the most cash again. Ethenroe buying a BCR. Daroge joining him. So finally some attention to the BCR. Again, I was surprised that we didn't see this earlier. Third Monkey, he buys the last share there, so that company will be potentially floating up. Already at the ceiling though, so not the most important. Titan Rich, he is buying his, or not his, but buying a JGG. Ethenroe and Daroge passing. Third Monkey also buying the JGG. 3 trains going to have pretty monstrous revenues. Titan Rich actually passing. That's surprising. There are shares available. Is he just really intent on having priority into the next stock round, assuming that Third Monkey is going to give him that? I guess he already has given him that. If he has priority in the next stock round, that to me suggests that he's looking to float a company. Which companies would be attractive in this case? We got the winner, the QSR, NXR, SCR, and LHR. Probably not the LHR. I don't know that I've really seen this company ever play a factor in the game. NXR could pretty easily head over to Beijing. Winner, he's already tokened out a bunch of places. This is the SCR. So the SCR has some decent run potential for himself. Can get into Shanghai and then link up potentially into Lhasa and Gray. So that would be reasonable. QSR also with some track potential. A token on E9 could be kind of problematic for some people. Although this has already been bypassed with E7. So, I mean, it's a decent company, the QSR, but it's not going to be impacting the other players' runs most likely. Yeah, we'll see how this works out for him. He's sacrificing a little bit. I guess he's at his cert limit, so maybe just doesn't want to kind of min-max his portfolio. Makes more sense not to be buying shares at least. And everything we've just discussed in terms of parring a second company still applies. He still has that option if that seems attractive. All right, so we have 2 players at their cert limit. Actually, 3 players at their, no, just 2, Titan Rich and Third Monkey. And two players not at their cert limit, but actually Daroge, with all of his presidencies, is leading in shares. So actually kind of a good position for him. JHA running 2 trains and just completes its operation. BCR needs to pick up a second train for himself here. And this will be, I think, the first 6E. 6E can bypass some of these DITs that he has developed along his runs. Running his 4, and looks like he pays that out for 290. He is into a very high bonus phase of the market. The JHU actually has still not managed to make it into this green phase as a result of the stock closure and just falling back, or not falling back, but not operating. So BCR is equaling its payouts now, at least until the JHU operates again. The 6E is bought. This is bad news for the JHU. No longer able to run 3 of its trains, and it also rusts a bunch of these 3+3s. So pretty important event here. HKR, probably also looking for a 6E train. Running for 290, which he pays out, and does buy the 6E. JHU train locked with just 2 trains, neither of which is permanent. We'll be able to afford its permanent train, but unfortunately, is going to be probably falling back at some point to do this. I guess that's not entirely true. When the 4 rusts can potentially pick up an 8E before the 4+4 rusts on him. It's just going to depend on how operating order works around that train break. Running for 560, much worse than before as a result of discarding a train. JGG, He is running one Trans-Siberian route, and with the 6 train, able to add to that revenue. Running for 500, decent, but not mind-blowingly expensive run. CKR, single train for him. No easy way for him to secure a second train either. Kind of a rough position for him. He's running for 280, so he must be one of the players whose 3+3 trains just rusted. And could buy a train over from the BCR and hope the BCR has cash for a second permanent train, which it would pretty convincingly have. May need to take that opportunity, otherwise the CKR is going to be a little bit of a dog for the rest of the game, which is what he does. JLR with a refurbished 2 train, of course. Tokens in E9, so that's that token we were talking about. Still bypassed at E7, and also doesn't give him easy access to an east-west run, if that's what he was looking for. Running for 310, which he pays. NJR, just a single train, does have access to Beijing and Shanghai. We'll see if he's able to take full advantage of both those revenue centers. And looks like he is unable to maximize his run into Beijing. He doesn't have the 6E, so he'd have to hit a bunch of dits to do it. Makes sense. Running for 300, which he pays. BZU, 2 trains now, is getting that extra bonus from the Trans-Siberian. And running for 530, kind of unfortunate for him that he's having to hit a number of dits with both of those runs. JHA, 2 trains as well. And heading out west, going to be a while before that track really develops anywhere, I think. Running for 450. The train marker is on the HKR. BCR is going to be buying a 6E here. We know that. So I think every one of these companies is going to be running once more, basically. Third Monkey running for just 190. Had his train bought over by the CKR, but we'll be rectifying that right away, I think. He does. HKR now running a 6E. Should have a decent run, able to kind of run throughout the map, get into Beijing and Shanghai. Not worried about these dits like his NJR company is. So running for 440, pretty good. And he pays that out. Also has $700 in the company. Could pick up a second permanent train here, which probably he wants to do. Again, his NJR company is struggling a little bit with revenue, so may want to get a 6E in both of these companies. He does. So that's going to extend the operating round once more. There's one 6E left, and I'm not sure that anybody is in a position to pick that up. It doesn't look like it. The BCU is closest, but I believe he's train locked. JHU running 2 trains, running them for 610, and he pays that out. Probably most of these companies will be just paying out for the rest of the game at this point. JGG, does he look to get a second Trans-Siberian run? Laying this tile here and then upgrading here or here, I think that would be enough to give him 2 Trans-Siberian runs. So he doesn't have a permit. Okay. Looks like he's been tokened out somewhere as well. Probably here, but this is something he can bypass. So running for 460, just a little bit worse than before that token was dropped. CKR now much better as a result of the 6E train, and he is running for 610 now. JLR, probably the same route for him, running for 310. NJR running a 6 and a 4. For some reason, I thought he had managed to get himself a 6E train, but it doesn't look like it. And he's going to be running for 480. BZU, same routes mostly, running for 530. BZU actually withheld, it looks like the last operation, I had missed that. But pays out this time. JHA. So several companies are just kind of working on heading out here to the west. Maybe potentially heading down to Lhasa in the late game. Um, some expensive track, but with these late game revenues, shouldn't have too much trouble linking that up if they want to. And I believe the train marker is on the HKR. It is. So BCR will be operating here, and then we will be seeing a stock round after the HKR. BCR running 2 trains again. Should have a pretty good payout, 630. HKR, 2 6E trains. Does he have track to take full advantage of this? I don't know that he does. I guess he can double tap Shanghai. He can, yeah, he can double tap Shanghai, but he's not gonna be able to get into Beijing twice. Um, I think he'll have good track. Yeah, he can run down south here as well and kind of pass any unupgraded cities or dits that he encounters. So should have a really nice run for himself. Running for 700, and he pays that out. So penultimate stock round here, and Titan Rich has a ton of cash. Everybody has a ton of cash. Titan Rich is at his cert limit already, but as noted previously, may want to sell out some of these less profitable companies and just par another company to push trains along, rust these 4 trains, and drop tokens that will be kind of a pain in the butt for the other players. Ethanrow, on the other hand, he's not at his cert limit, may just want to buy paying shares here rather than parring another company, especially because there's probably only 1 or 2 companies that are worth parring at this point if we just look at the map real quick. I think we had talked about the QSR before, decent potential there. It's going to need some upgrades to do it, though. This track is not going to upgrade to allow him to bypass this token, and he's already tokened out down here. So would either have to head around this way or head up into Chongqing and get into Beijing that way. He's also not going to be able to run through the Beijing token, so maybe not actually the greatest company. The SCR, on the other hand, I think we discussed as well as being a contender and probably has much better potential. So maybe the SCR is the company of choice here. The NXR, the LHR, probably not great, and the winner also underwhelming. Potentially with help from the CKR, the BCR could get a upgrade here that would allow it to run along the south, but much less guaranteed than the SCR. So I think the SCR is probably the sole best company to float here, and we'll see if he wants to take that. By him, I mean Titan Rich. He's passing for now. Ethanrow, he's taking the SCR, so at least we were right on the company, if not the player to take it. And he will get some extra stock density with this. Should still be able to hit his cert limit, I think, with that much money. Of course, selecting a 40% presidency. And we are on to Darosh, the other player not at his cert limit. He has 3 of the Beijing companies and then a company north of them. 4 presidencies. I don't know that he's really motivated to start another company, especially now that they're a little bit underwhelming. One's left. May just be buying paying shares here. And if he's looking for paying shares, let's just do a quick overview of the existing companies. JHA running for 510, but this train is going to be rusting quite soon. The JGG also available, has a train that will be lasting for a little bit longer at least. And then we have the BZU running okay, and the JLR. Probably not going to be picking up the JLR. That refurbished 2 train is not super attractive right now. So maybe looking at the JGG or the BZU. Instead, going to be parring the NXR. He pars that for 90. I think that's the last $90 par. It is. And let's just relook at the map for a second. NXR. So he is tokened out of Chongqing, not tokened out of Chengdu. Could run down south there to get into Lhasa in this track here. He's going to be operating, I believe, after the SCR, so needs to be a little bit worried about tokens. Alternatively, could run up north here, but this is not going to upgrade. He can't get to Beijing or anywhere useful through this. So I think his only viable option is to head south, and he's going to be vulnerable. In terms of operating order, where are we sitting? At the HKR, and Darosh has the Beijing companies. He is a D permanent in the JLR only. So the only company that could help him out with the NXR is the JLR. And the JLR isn't really able to help him. It could upgrade this track here, but it's tokened out here, can't do anything here. Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about the NXR start here. Probably taking a 40% presidency though. He does in a D permit. So 2 new companies floated. Third Monkey also at his cert limit. Could look to min-max here, and it's just going to pass. So we'll see these other 2 players floating their companies, I'm sure. And now they can buy paying shares in other companies if they want. Ethan buying the BZU. Could look to pressure this presidency, actually. Daroge can defend, but this will dictate, I guess, the shares that Daroge has to buy. He's going to buy his own NXR. Does Ethan force the issue here? Looks like he will buy his own SCR, actually. And Daroge has 1 more share to buy. He will buy a BZU. Everybody should be passing, leaving Third Monkey with priority. And we're into the SCR, which is operating first. SCR can basically seal the fate of the NXR, I believe. So, oh, sorry, we're not actually at the NXR just yet, or the SCR just yet. That always throws me off. He's just placing his home token. The JHU running 2 trains and not able to lay any track for the rest of the game. Paying out for 810, so very good revenue, but again, doesn't have a permanent train, so it's going to be scrambling in another operating round or so. JGG, he is upgrading I9. So this track here, again, this potentially helps the NXR a little bit, but not really. This run is going to be very underwhelming, even if he's double tapping these 00 cities. And he's only going to be able to do that potentially until Brown. Yeah, I don't know. Running for 550, CKR, pretty good runs for him. And he is run by Third Monkey, who is not the SCR player, so it doesn't really need to help the SCR in any way. Upgrading on M5. So just laying a DIT there. Running for 610 and pays out. JLR still just running that refurbished 2 for 310. SCR first operation. So I think probably he's looking at a token on Chengdu here, and then buying a permanent train. His train is going to be the 8, and that will rust the 4s for everyone. The NXR, the NJR, so basically the NJR, BZU, and JJ, do they have any 4 trains? NJR is up here, that's going to rust. BZU, not rusting. And what was the last one? The JHA. I think I saw a 4 train down there. It does. So 2 4 trains going to be rusting before they're able to run. Bad news for both of those players. And did he secure a token anywhere? He did, but he put it on Kunming. I'm not seeing the logic there. I guess he cuts the BCR run potentially, but not really. BCR can just, loop around as usual. And this potentially leaves a token opportunity for the NXR. NXR shouldn't be able to get there in 1 operation, but I would be a little bit worried about that. I don't understand the token here as opposed to on Chengdu. Good news for Ethan is that the trigger into the next phase is going to double the cost of the token for the NXR if he does want to lay it somewhere. First operation of the NXR. And he is heading north into that 00 city that was upgraded for him. Going to be buying that second 8 train. Actually buys a refurbished 2 first. Is he going to shuffle trains around? So he has 2 companies that he can buy. He has 3 companies he can buy trains from. Maybe just looking to augment their treasury. Probably not going to do it from the BZU or the JHA. in which case he would be looking at the JGG. JGG, I don't imagine he wants to buy the 4+4 over. Yeah, I don't know. He's in a little bit of trouble in terms of permanent trains. This 2+ is not going to, or 2 refurbished is not going to satisfy his requirement. And these 4+4s are next on the chopping block, of course. And he does shuffle a train out of the BZU, so buys it up against operating order, leaving it enough money for a permanent train. But he, yeah, I guess he does have permanent trains in all of his companies now. All right. Fair enough. That NXR run is going to be pretty pathetic, though, I think. So we see the D permit being laid. NJR has the ability to lay track again, and he is going to be taking advantage of that to upgrade Nanjing into gray, running a 6 train. And is he able to reach over into Lhasa with a 6 train? Doesn't look like it. Yeah, he would need probably a 6E to get over there. So he pays out. BZU running just a 4+4, still hitting the Trans-Siberian. We'll need a permanent train here. Paying for 340 and buying an 8, which will trigger the last phase of the game and the final stock round. So we are seeing the late development now. Everybody's at their cert limits. I don't think any of the remaining companies are worth parring. So just looking at companies here, are there any obvious value companies or obvious dog companies that you want to drop out of? So I guess the elephant in the room is the JHU. It's the only company without a permanent train. It is the Rocket Company, so it has a massive bonus of 40, but you have to kind of worry that it runs the risk of falling back here. Where are we in operating order? We are at the BZU, so there's 3 companies that are going to be operating before the JHU can, and that 4+4 is going to rust on the first buy of the 8E. So the question is, can any of these companies, buy an 8E? The BZU is not going to be doing it, and I don't think the JHA, I don't think anybody can do it. So probably not falling back. Yeah, nobody has money to do that. So won't be falling back, but will probably have to rust his own 4+4 here. And at least he'll be maintaining this $40 bonus for that. So I guess this is all a long way of saying that the people with the JHU shares probably do not need to sell out here. That said, if they did sell out, they would knock it out of that $40 bonus, which would make that company quite a bit worse. Ethanroe is already in last place, at least at this point in the operations. I don't know that selling his shares to hurt him is really worth it if you're ahead of him. The Third Monkey would be a player to potentially do that, for instance, and he's leading. And what would you buy if you sold out here? These 6Es are probably attractive. Unfortunately, this company's already sold out, so you're not going to be grabbing that. Titan Rich is loving that. This company has a train that's going to be rusting. So does the BZU. So the SCR with an 8 train is a potential. It's pretty cheap. You may kind of look past this company because it doesn't have the best stock appreciation as a result. Yeah, I don't know. Suppose you could look towards the JJ. It's running a 6 train, has decent revenue, is also in a pretty good bonus phase of the market. I think that would probably be my first choice of companies here, at least. BZU is going to have one more run. Sorry, the BZU is not going to have another run with this 4+4, most likely. So I don't think you're looking towards that. Maybe looking actually to sell shares of that company. Titan Third Monkey is just going to pass for now. Titan Rich passing. Ethanroe passing, and Daroge also passing. So nobody's eager to make any changes to their portfolio. I have to imagine that there was at least one player there that could have made some small changes to improve his revenue, but nobody's interested in doing that calculus, it looks like. JHA running a 6, running for 340 with the bonus, and paying out. Operating round 10 now, or top of the operating round, I should say. BCR has been tokened out somewhere. Looks like, where is the, here in Kumking. Probably not the end of the world of it, is instead of heading to French Indochina, now heading up to Lhasa. So I don't imagine he cares that much about that. Probably doesn't hurt his revenue at all. And he's running for 530. His revenue did drop by $100, but I'm not sure that's the result of the token. It may just be a train that rusted. HKR, 2 6E trains. So I think probably the company that the SCR hurt with this token is the HKR more than the BCR. And the SCR is run by Ethanrow, who is opposing Titan Rich, so it makes sense to do that. Ethanrow's in last place, at least right now. And Titan Rich is contending for first, so maybe seeing some knock-on effects where the winner of the game is going to be determined by the last place player. Running for 750 though, so still great runs. And is he actually not running into Lhasa? That's a little bit surprising. I guess he doesn't have access, so not surprising at all, actually. Still a monstrous run, and he is the majority owner there, so definitely in a good position. Ethanrow, he needs to buy his 8E, I believe. Running for 650 as a result of that monstrous bonus from the stock market. And he does buy the 8E. So that's probably one of the last trains we'll see bought. He has a ton of money in this company, so withheld too much, I think, in the communist phase, and lost a lot of efficiency, potential payouts by doing so, because this is not going to be enough money for him to buy a second permanent train with, and it will just be kind of wasted money. Could buy a refurbished 2 train, but I mean, he's still going to have a ton of leftover cash if he does that. JGG running a single 6. Is he still looking to lay track for the NXR? He can't with just a C permit. CKR, he's running a 6E for 400 and pays. JLR, looks like he's upgrading Jinan and running for 410. SCR, I think that the SCR player needs to be careful here that he doesn't lose out in Chengdu. But with double expensive tokens or double cost tokens, can the NXR even lay it? He can. But with the track cost, I guess he can't. So SCR is safe. I was worried about something that is not going to come to pass, I don't think. And he should just be able to run his A train kind of unmolested. Upgrading chunking that bypasses those tokens, and he's running for 390. NXR with just 1 token is going to need to drop another token somewhere, potentially in Jinan, to improve his runs. But even with that, the run is not going to be great. Leaving himself enough cash for a token, but if he lays this, he's not going to be able to token anywhere, and he'll just have left this open to all the rest of the companies on the board. So he does link up with Lhasa, and has better runs than I guess I expected. But what's he going to do with this refurbished 2 train with just 1 token? Really going to be hard for him to take any advantage of that at all, I think. Yeah, so pretty underwhelming. Better than I expected, I guess. He's able to take advantage of this upgrade here, which I wasn't expecting. But really not worth parring that company over paying shares in another company, I don't think. NJR. He is upgrading Shanghai, running 2 trains, should double tap Shanghai with one of them, and runs out of 520. BZU, 8 train. He does have a token in Beijing, so probably no longer running the Trans-Siberian run, and instead will be running south into some of these revenue centers. Running for 350, and actually I just want to look at his route real quick. Um, so surprisingly, running down into this double O, um, it seems like he may want to bypass some of these cities and just continue to run down south into higher revenue centers. That's a little bit interesting. Paying for 350, and we drop on the end of this operating order with the JHA running a single train for 360, which he pays out. So the game is ending at the end of the BZU turn in two more operating rounds. Let's just look at how the players are stacking up one another because there's not too much interesting track left. Um, the net worth is quite close. The company that is going to get kind of screwed in terms of operating is the JJ, which is the Daroge player. Daroge is in second place narrowly, so he probably is eliminated from contention just based on the JHU not getting the run. Um, and then we come down to Titan Rich and Third Monkey. Third Monkey has two healthy companies, pretty good runs, but they're dwarfed by this HKR, which should be enough for Titan Rich to take this. That said, the one thing I was missing is that Daroge has a massive share lead of 9 shares. Unfortunately for him, 6 of those 9 shares are very underwhelming, and the revenue for all of his companies is pretty bad. Um, so, for instance, the 350 and the 360 combined are equal to, Titan Rich's investment in the HKR, basically. Um, they will be potentially aggregating stock um, in terms of, the bonus. I don't know. This is close. It's hard to predict. We may unfortunately have to play this out a little bit more to get a better idea of who's going to win. We could look at the spreadsheet here, just look at revenue. So Titan Rich is exceeding everyone and definitely exceeding Third Monkey, who is his, I guess, closest competitor. Daroge is still in the running, so is Ethanroe. But I think Titan Rich just takes this. It's going to be pretty close. Um, so I think that it's probably not worth going through all these operations. Let's skip this operating round and just see how things have developed. No real significant changes in track or tokens. And in terms of net worth, Titan Rich is now ahead, and I think he just takes this game. Third Monkey will come in second. All right, so let's skip to the end of the game. Titan Rich takes it by about $300, very close. Daroge bringing us into third, and Ethanroe in last place. Let's just think back for a moment. Titan Rich was the East Coast player. It was running the HKR and NJR from the early phase of the game. And I think the reason he wins is just because he was able to secure 2 6Es in the HKR. The earlier track development and decision making probably does not play as much into that outcome as that. Of course, it sets him up for that, but that is the deciding factor for him. Third Monkey, he was the BCR player and also had the CKR. He played well, and as usual, the BCR player is in contention for the win, just eked out at the end here. And I don't know that I can identify a specific mistake he made or something like that that puts him behind. He may be just behind as a result of not having another presidency. So Titan Rich had 2 presidencies, and Third Monkey also had 2 presidencies. In terms of the presidency density, BCR is 20%. So they both had 20 and 30% presidencies, so that's not the difference maker either. Yeah, I don't know, just basically the way the trains broke, I think. I guess potentially we could look at who withheld more during communism as well. So we're comparing the BCR and the HKR, which looked like there was a total of 5 withholds, versus the HKR, the BCR and the CKR, which is a total of 4 withholds, to the HKR and the NJR, which is also 4 withholds. So, funnily enough, I mean, all the metrics that I think to check on to compare two players' performance seem to be pretty equal between these players, and it may just come down to factors that were minor, or maybe even beyond their control in determining who wins. Daroge, on the other hand, he started this NXR company, which I think probably didn't end up paying out for him. So that may be explaining why he has a little bit of a larger gap between the two main contenders for the win. And then Ethanroe, he was, I believe, the Rocket player, and I've criticized his play a little bit several times with respect to allowing those two trains to rust on him. He also had to withhold a ton during communism. So he withheld twice, but also just fell back. And he ended up, I think, as we noted, with a ton of extra cash with nothing to do with it. So actually withheld probably at least once too many. And then the other thing that I was criticizing was the JGG, which was Daroge. But I think in retrospect, that was probably a unfair criticism. He was able to run that company fairly well. It ended up with just the 6 trains, so the revenue wasn't too great, but it wasn't like he was trapping himself until a later phase like I had predicted, so I will have to walk back that criticism. Well played to all these players, particularly Titan Rich and Third Monkey, who were neck and neck for most of it, and I hope the video was enjoyable. We'll be back with more content in the future.